Have you ever used it?
Once or twice.
The most dangerous lies are never the ones we tell our enemies. They're the ones we tell the people we love to protect them from who we've become. You just heard one. Once or twice, spoken by a woman with roughly 60 kills to her name. This isn't a reunion, it's an interrogation. The warmest moment of the final season, the hug fans waited 8 years for, is the game of faces, played between an assassin and a dead man, under the tree that watched them both leave as children. Almost every line in it is a lie. Deliberate, trained, running in both directions. And here's my promise. By the end of this video, I'll show you a document written in 1993, 3 years before the first book was even published, that explains why this scene feels the way it feels, why the hug looks stiff, why the warmth never quite lands. It is not what you think. Let's take the scene apart line by line, because the lies are stacked in a very specific order. Lie number 1. Jon asks about Needle, the sword he gave her before everything burned down.
Have you ever used it?
Once or twice.
Once or twice. Run the actual count. Needle only. Exactly the question Jon asked. A stable boy in King's Landing. Her first. Almost an accident. Polliver, stabbed slowly through the throat. The same way he killed Lamy. Rorge, the second he was foolish enough to tell her his name. And the waif, hunted through half of Braavos and finished in a pitch-black room because Arya cut the only candle before the fight began. 4. And that's the charitable count. It doesn't include fighting Brienne of Tarth to a standstill with this same sword in this same castle. 4 is not once or twice. Even the letter of her answer is a lie. But the letter is the small lie, because Jon isn't auditing a sword. The question underneath the question is, did you have to become someone who kills? And look at everything once or twice is built to bury. Meryn Trant, carved apart in a Braavosi brothel with a knife. Walder Frey, throat opened at his own table, after she baked his sons into a pie and served it to him. The entire male line of House Frey, poisoned in one toast. Littlefinger, executed in the great hall of the castle she's standing in right now, with the Valyrian steel dagger she brought home to Winterfell, the same one Gendry teases her about later in this very episode. By the time she reaches the Godswood, her count sits around 60 people, give or take a few Freys. Once or twice. She's not downplaying a number, she's protecting a person, because the girl Jon gave that sword to was learning to be a hero. The woman holding it now is a graduate of a death cult. And Arya makes a choice, right there in the Godswood, that Jon will never meet her. The sister he left behind stays alive in the lie. Lie number 2 belongs to Jon. Arya asks him the question no one else has dared to ask directly.
How did you survive a knife through the heart?
I didn't.
Now here's the twisted part. I didn't is technically the truest sentence in the entire scene. Jon died. He was murdered by his own brothers and brought back by fire magic. That answer is a confession. But watch how he delivers it. He grins, and she grins back, and they run to each other. He turns his own death into a punchline, because a truth wrapped in a joke can't be examined. There's no follow-up question to a grin and an open pair of arms. He hands her the fact and slams the door on the feeling. What it was like to be nothing. What it's like to walk around knowing you already ended once. He tells the truth in a way designed to be ignored. That's not honesty. That's the most sophisticated lie in the scene. And now the third one, the one that hides inside a plot hole. Ask yourself, how does Arya even know Jon was stabbed through the heart? Nobody tells her on screen. Not once. Which means someone, Sansa, Davos, maybe Tormund, told her off camera before this scene. And that changes everything about her question. She's not asking for information. She already knows the answer. She walks into the Godswood carrying his secret, and she asks anyway, to see what he does with it. Will her brother tell her the truth? He doesn't. He jokes. And she watches him do it, files it away, and moves on. That's not a sister catching up. That's an interrogator confirming a baseline. The question was a test. He failed it. And the fourth lie isn't a line at all. It's what they do instead of talking. Watch the scene again. The emotional peak of this reunion isn't the hug. It's the moment they compare blades. Arya draws needle for him. Jon hands her Longclaw. She weighs it.
Valyrian steel.
Jealous?
Too heavy for me.
And hands it straight back. Two people who cannot show each other their wounds, showing each other their weapons instead. The steel is the only honesty in the scene. If that just cracked open a hug you've rewatched a dozen times, that's the moment the like button exists for on this channel. Arya kept a list of names. Consider the like your way of putting this video on yours. Not because I asked, because something in the Godswood just shifted. Hi, I'm Nick, you're watching Cynic Cults, and we're just getting started. Because the lies are only half of the game of faces. The other half is what you do while you're lying. And what Arya is doing in this scene isn't hiding. It's hunting. That's Act 2. To understand what Arya is actually doing in the Godswood, you need to remember what she was trained to do. In the House of Black and White, deception isn't a sin. It's a discipline. Weave the lie until it's seamless, or deflect the question until it dies. She even taught the game to Sansa, with a dagger in her hand.
There was a game I used to play. The game of faces.
That was one season earlier, in this same castle, with her own sister. So when Arya stands in the Godswood trading guarded half-truths with Jon, she's not slipping into old habits. She never stopped playing. And keep this in your pocket, because it's coming. In a few minutes, I'm going to show you a completely different version of this reunion, written a year before HBO's ever aired, where Arya introduces herself to Daenerys' army by dueling a Dothraki bloodrider at the gates of Winterfell, with needle. For now, the line everyone laughed at.
Sansa thinks she's smarter than everyone.
She's the smartest person I've ever met.
The standard reading is sisterly loyalty. Sweet, maybe a little forced. The internet mocked it for years. That reading is wrong. Think about who Arya has actually met. She poured wine for Tywin Lannister at Harrenhal, and matched wits with him across a war table while he knew, on some level, she was more than a cupbearer. She watched Littlefinger operate up close, then executed him. She was trained by Jaqen Hagar, a man so intelligent he treats identity itself as a costume. Arya has stood in the same room as the sharpest minds this story ever produced. She does not rank Sansa above Tywin Lannister by accident. And here's the receipt suggesting she doesn't even believe it. There are long-standing reports of a scene cut from Season 7, never officially released, in which Sansa doesn't catch Littlefinger on her own. She goes to Bran, and it's his visions that expose the treason. If that's how the trap was really built, Arya knows it better than anyone. She was the blade at the end of it. So the line isn't an assessment. It's a message. Decode it, and it reads, "The sisters are aligned now. The knives of Winterfell point in the same direction. And if you make us choose between you and this castle, brother, understand what you're choosing against." The compliment is a warning shot. And 30 seconds later, she stops disguising it. Jon, feeling the ground move under him, reaches for the one thing that should be safe.
I'm a family too.
Don't forget that.
Look at Arya's face when she says it. No smile. No softness. The hug comes after. But in that instant, her eyes are the eyes from the House of Black and White. Don't forget that, is not reassurance. It's a condition. It's the same energy as the Season 7 scene where she held a blade to Sansa's face to test her. Except now, the blade is a sentence. Translated, you are family as long as you remember you are. She came to the Godswood to answer one question. Not, is my brother alive? But, is my brother still ours? And she leaves without an answer, because Jon spent the whole scene deflecting, joking, and defending his queen. That's not a sister leaving a reunion. That's a sentry returning to her post. Now, if you think I'm reading too much darkness into a family hug, here's a test. There's another complete version of this reunion, written a year before HBO's ever aired. And in that version, when Jon brings up Arya's blade, she tells him the truth. Full honesty about what this is, because it matters. In 2018, a year before the premiere, a writer's room at Boston University wrote their own complete Season 8. 6 full scripts. A staged reading with actors, streamed live. HBO knew about it. They even sent the students the actual Iron Throne for the event. It's not a leak. It's not canon. It's fan-made, and it's publicly available. Which is exactly why it's useful. Because it's a control group. The same 7 seasons of story went in. A completely different reunion came out. And the difference tells you everything about the scene HBO chose to shoot. In their version, Arya doesn't wait quietly under a tree. She rides out to meet the procession, and a Dothraki blood rider named Rozo blocks her path and draws his Arak. Arya sighs and draws Needle. He's twice her size. He batters her sword out of her hands, and she ends the fight anyway, with the Valyrian steel dagger standing over him, both blades placed exactly where a man understands them best, as Jon and Daenerys ride up to find the deadliest person at Winterfell introducing herself to the Queen's entire army. In public. In the open. Exactly who she is. And then comes the detail that matters most. As Jon and Arya walk through the camp afterward, he gestures at Needle and says, direct quote, "I'm sorry you had need of it." No test, no games. And when he notices the Valyrian dagger on her belt, Arya answers honestly, "Bran gave it to me. It's a long story. Truth about the blade, truth about the dagger, truth about who she's become." A room of writers who had never met the showrunners, working from the same source material, sat down to imagine this exact reunion, and their instinct was confrontation in the open and honest answers between siblings. That's the natural shape of this scene. That's where the story leans when you let it fall. Which means the aired version's wall-to-wall concealment is not the default. It's not an accident of a tight runtime. Somebody had to write once or twice instead of the truth. Somebody had to build a reunion where the two people who loved each other most exchanged nothing at all. And here's the proof it was engineered, sitting inside the aired episode itself. Every lie in the Godswood is only visible as a lie because the show spent 7 seasons making sure you knew the truth first. You watched every kill. You watched the knife go in. The scene hands the audience everything and the siblings nothing. That's not sloppy writing, that's dramatic irony built line by line. Confrontation, confession, truth. The version written by outsiders has all 3. HBO's version has once or twice. The final draft is the lie. YouTube gives you 3 hypes a week. 3. Most people let them rot, which is exactly how the phrase treated their guests' trust, right up until Arya spent it all in one toast. You just watch me put a second version of this reunion on the table, one where the Starks tell each other the truth, and it makes the version you watched impossible to unsee. If that's worth marking, spend one of your 3 here. Small channels don't get handed the Great Hall. We take it one banner at a time. But none of this answers the real question, the one fans have been circling since 2019. Why did this reunion feel off? Why did the Jon and Sansa hug in Season 6 make grown adults cry, while this one, the reunion, felt guarded, stiff, strangely careful? The comparison doesn't explain that. The Game of Faces doesn't fully explain it either. To explain it, we have to leave the show entirely. We have to go back to 1993, to 3 pages that were never supposed to go public. In 1993, before a single book was published, George R.R. Martin wrote a 3-page outline pitching the entire saga to his publisher. It leaked decades later. And in those 3 pages, the emotional center of the whole story is not Jon and Daenerys. It's Jon and Arya. In the original plan, they fall in love. They're tormented by it, half-siblings as far as they know, until the revelation of Jon's true Targaryen parentage dissolves the barrier between them. That was the design. The forbidden love story the entire series was originally built to carry. And once you know that, the early books start glowing with fingerprints that were never fully sanded off. Start with the sword itself. When Jon has needle made for Arya, the books give us his exact thought. Girls get the arms but not the swords. Bastards get the swords but not the arms. Jon gives Arya the sword, and book theorists have spent years pointing at the mirror image hiding in that line, that one day Arya would give Jon the arms, the name, the legitimacy. There is only one way a woman gives a man her family's arms in Westeros: marriage. The fingerprints keep going, and I'll flag these honestly as book reader theory because that's what they are. In King's Landing, the hardest test Syrio sets for Arya is catching the one-eared black tomcat of the Red Keep, the ragged black shadow that had escaped every hand in the castle for years. Book readers have spent 2 decades asking who else in Arya's story is a black-haired shadow nobody could ever hold on to. The boy brooding at the edge of the family, the one she loved most. Any one of these threads alone is coincidence. Sitting next to a 1993 outline where Jon and Arya are the love story, they start to look like scaffolding that never got taken down. The books were seeded for a love story that got cancelled. Now bring that back to the Godswood. The show pivoted years ago. Jon's romance went to Daenerys, and Jon and Arya were locked in as strictly, purely siblings. Fine. But the deep structure of their bond, the intensity, she was the one he missed most, the sword that meant everything, all of that was originally load-bearing for a completely different kind of story. The show inherited a relationship built to carry romantic weight, and was only allowed to express it as a handshake. So the writers did the only safe thing. They kept Jon and Arya at arm's length, guarded lines, deflected questions, weapons instead of wounds. Compare it to Jon and Sansa at Castle Black, a relationship with no dangerous history, allowed to be openly, messily emotional. That hug gets tears. This one gets a weapons inspection. The scene feels wrong because the story underneath it no longer exists. You watched 2 characters reunite inside the outline of a cancelled love story, and the script tiptoeing around that grave is the stiffness you felt. The chemistry wasn't missing, it was forbidden. Which leaves one final question, and it's the one that turns this whole video on its head. If everything in the Godswood was a lie, the numbers, the joke, the compliment, the test, why doesn't the scene feel like a betrayal? Because these lies aren't weapons, they're gifts. Think about what Arya is actually protecting when she says,
Once or twice.
Not herself. She's not ashamed. She's never once flinched from what she's done. She's protecting Jon's version of her, the little sister with the messy hair and the stolen sword. She lets that girl live in his eyes, because his eyes are the last place that girl exists. And Jon's joke does the same thing in reverse.
I didn't.
Delivered with a laugh, keeps him human-sized for her. Not a resurrected thing. Not a walking miracle with a queen and a destiny. Just her brother, making a stupid joke in the Godswood, the way he would have at 12. She lies to stay his sister. He lies to stay her brother. The game of faces was designed to erase who you are. And in the Godswood, both of them turn it inside out. They use it to preserve who they were. And this is where the scene stops being about Westeros at all, because you've played this exact scene. Everyone who has ever gone home after years away has stood in a kitchen playing the game of faces with someone they love. How have you been? Fine. What happened out there? Nothing much. Once or twice. We don't lie to the people we love because we don't trust them. We lie because we do. We trust them to hold the old version of us, the one the world hasn't gotten to yet, and we'd rather die than hand them the replacement. So look at the hug one last time. 2 people embracing versions of each other that no longer exist, and holding on tighter because of it, not in spite of it. It's the only moment in the scene where nobody's lying. because the arms remember what the words are hiding. So here's what I want to know, and I want the real answer, not the easy one. Which lie protects harder? Arya's once or twice, or Jon's I didn't? One hides what she's done, the other hides what he is. If you were standing under that tree, which one would you have told? Drop it in the comments. The answers to this one are going to say more about you than about them. This is the part where most channels beg you to subscribe. I won't. But if this video just turned the softest scene in Season 8 into an interrogation, if you can no longer watch that hug without hearing the test hidden inside the question, then you already think like we do here. We're building an empire of people who see what the camera doesn't show. And if you're still here, you're already one of us. You know what to do. In this video, Arya played the game of faces on her own brother, and won. But everything she did under that tree, the lie, the test, the unreadable face, she learned from one man. And here's the question I left open. When she told that man she was leaving,
A girl is Arya Stark of Winterfell, and I'm going home.
he smiled. Nobody smiles when a weapon walks out the door. Unless the weapon is headed exactly where you aimed it. Why Jaqen H'ghar really let her go? That video is right here. And once you watch it, you'll never see her homecoming the same way again. See you there. Until then, stay cold.